for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, good Saturday afternoon. I decided to do it's not impromptu. I've been working on this for a while, but I decided to go ahead and do a stream today. Thanks for being here. First of all, as always, I want to give credit where credit is due. A big shout out to Ryan and his family, as he has now, like I said, achieved the rank, if you will, of in memoriam permanent show producer for the way that he has made it possible for his family to do gifting in a way that is just mind blowing, mind boggling. What they've been able to do with what Ryan left behind at his passing is just touching and beyond absolute comprehension, especially for me as being one of the people that have benefited from their kindness and their graciousness. So thank you so much to Ryan and his legacy and his memory for that. Now, thank you to well, geez, forgot to put myself back up on screen. Might actually make for a better show if I didn't put myself on screen, right? But now I want to get around to one. Thank you. Big shout out to Natalie, my volunteer researcher. She took some vacation time last week, or no, it was this week. Excuse me. She took some vacation time this week. She came back from vacation and got right back into it, and she has done a massive amount of digging, and she has uncovered so much stuff about Adam Schwarze that we've got enough content to do shows until after he loses the primary. Yes, I'm actively hoping that Adam loses the primary at this point. You guys known that for a while, but yes, Adam needs to lose the primary to any of his competitors, whichever one they might be. And then if for some reason he doesn't lose the primary, we need to be pulling for him to lose in the general election. Adam cannot take the Senate seat, and Natalie's got all the stuff to demonstrate why, and she's just feeding it to me every day. So Natalie, thank you so much for the work that you do. And now, thank you, channel members, for being here and supporting, just constantly every month, just supporting, partnering with me. If you're interested in partnering with the channel and the work that I do, become a channel member, or head over to my Gifts and Go, where I have a partnership story set up over there, and you read it and you want to partner with me through the Gifts and Go. If you do that at the Gifts and Go level, you will receive, for lack of better terminology, you will receive a added benefit of getting, at least for a short period of time, behind the paywall access to my writings on Substack. So if you're interested, check that out. And we'll try and make sure there's a link in the description for that. Thank you. And to everybody else, please like, comment, and share. Please make sure that this gets out into the media as soon as humanly possible. So over the last several weeks, what I have been noticing is that Adam Schwarze's flying monkeys, if you will, have been running around, not only parroting Adam's personal talking points about how his career ended, but parroting the fact that he was found not guilty or exonerated of these 7 charges and these accusations that were made against him while he was campaigning on active duty. And by the way, we have video of Adam delivering a campaign speech while he was on active duty. while he denies that he was actually campaigning, we have video of that, and that will be that's up on as a short, and we will be doing a commentary video on that as well. But what most people don't understand is that active duty military individuals are tightly restricted from campaigning while they're on active duty. They're not forbidden from going to political activities. They're not forbidden from going to rallies or conventions or anything like that, but they are forbidden from actively campaigning, and they're also forbidden the freedom to mention that they're in the military. And as a, in Adam's case, now a disgraced Navy SEAL who had his trident ripped from him by his teammates, by the people in the Naval Special Warfare community. They destroyed him as a SEAL. They humiliated him. They took his trident. That he won't talk about it other than to blame the Navy SEALs and say they played politics with Adam, that they chose politics over loyalty to Adam. Adam's the one who chose loyalty or politics over loyalty. So make sure you understand that. Adam Schwarze chose a political career over loyalty to his team. But he blames his fellow SEAL team members, the SEAL team community, the Naval Special Warfare community. He blames them for all of that. And nothing could be further from the truth. It was all on Adam. And they took his trident from him for multiple reasons. And he was warned. He's warned, and we're going to get to that. But he's got these advocates. He's got these flying monkeys. He's got these voices that are out there defending him, telling people all the time, Adam didn't do this. Adam was exonerated. And over the last several weeks, I have been running into people who are falsely defending Adam by saying that Adam's main persecutor, now former Secretary of the Navy, Del Toro, received a Hatch Act violation and was then forced out of office, fired. And I did grab screen grabs of the one that's most important to note, and that's Adam's campaign manager. Now, I don't know if Xavier is still Adam's campaign manager. He may have moved into a different role as an advisor or something, but at the time, he was Adam's campaign manager. And he is advancing this false narrative about Del Toro. And it became very easy for him to do that. And it indicates that it's not the first time that he's done that to me. Not to me, but it indicates to me it's not the first time that Xavier has done that. But I want to show you an interaction between North Dakota Senator Kramer and Secretary Navy Del Toro. So here we go.
Good solid year ahead.
Oops.
Mr. Secretary, I'm going to get right to the point with you. I worked with the Navy for a little better than a year and a half to this point on behalf of a Navy SEAL and an officer who wanted to get out of his service a few months early so that he could pursue his next level of service, his next area of service in political office. It's pretty much over, the case, but I wanted to
notice that Senator Kramer said it's pretty much over, the case. And why are you bringing it up, Senator Kramer? Oh, and by the way, Senator Kramer, we know some things about you. We have some information about you, and we are going to be doing an episode about your connections to Adam Schwarze and what may have motivated you to take up for Adam. You see, politics is a dirty game, and we all know that. But when there's an appearance of impropriety, we need to look at that. Like, I don't have to prove impropriety, but I can show you the appearance of impropriety. Senator Kramer.
Highlight it in this form because it's really a horrible vignette of how the Navy, I think, far too often treats its people. I brought it up with you once quite a while back with Admiral Gilday as well. And I'll make it as brief as I can. Lieutenant Adam Schwarze asked in July of 2021 for permission to run for office while serving his final few months in the Navy. The paperwork got lost, and it took me getting involved for the paperwork to find its way back into the process. And then the CNO endorsed his request, and then it was denied by you. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Schwarze also tried to get out using an old but still authorized early retirement authority. Again, process stopped unexplainably, but I weighed in and the process then continued with the commander of naval personnel endorsing the package, only again to be denied at your level. Then, from my vantage point, Mr. Secretary, began what I think was a witch hunt.
Senator Kramer has fallen for Adam Schwarze's idea that somehow the Secretary of the Navy under Biden, Carlos Del Toro, saw Adam as an incredibly important figure that needed to be stopped from running for office because he could upset the entire political landscape. Adam Schwarze is so important that the Biden administration, in particular, Secretary of the Navy Del Toro, had to get involved. He had to do this.
He was called back from his skill bridge assignment in Minnesota to his last assignment in Hawaii, where he could then be punished. The Naval Special Warfare Group lawyers proceeded to rip apart his history, his dedication, and question his integrity with statements that literally, quote, call into question his sincerity and trustworthiness. I'm happy to provide all of this for you in case your team has lost it.
Yes, they did say that. When you lose trust and credibility with your special operations team members, they don't like you much anymore. You're a liability, and you're a dangerous liability.
In fact, you went after this decorated hero with a veracity
What's going on here?
that made my staff, including a commander in the military, reach out to him to check his well-being, and reached out to the Navy to make sure that they were looking out for his well-being. You pulled his trident and then prevented him from retiring.
And that is misinformation, folks. Senator Kramer just misspoke. Secretary of the Navy Del Toro did not pull Adam's trident. Adam went before a disciplinary committee inside of the Naval Special Warfare Special Operations world, Special Warfare world. And this tribunal took the totality of the evidence of Adam's behaviors, and they said, our recommendation to the commander of Naval Special Warfare is that he have his trident removed. This is humiliating, right? This is humiliating stuff here. And then that commander agreed and then passed it on, and the final decision was with the Department of Navy, but Del Toro didn't do this. Del Toro is not the one that ordered this. That starts in the Naval Special Warfare community. And his cry as hard as he wants, cope and seethe as much as he wants. Adam can't pin this on Del Toro. But Mr. Kramer just gave misinformation, intentional, deceptive, misleading information that's what happened, that Del Toro personally did this.
On time. You did an investigation that included false statements about me and my connection with Lieutenant Schwarze, statements that seemed quite political for what's supposed to be an apolitical organization. The whole time that my office was trying to get in.
Wait a minute. So if the Navy is supposed to be an apolitical organization and Del Toro was being political, but Adam running for office, once again, we have the video of him campaigning while on active duty. If Adam running for office isn't political, what is? Adam violated the Department of Defense directives. That's what he did. We have the video. We've demonstrated it. But now Kramer is saying it's all political on everybody else's act. And we've got Adam in his own words, and we'll show you that video here shortly, in his own words, saying something absolutely asinine about Del Toro.
Information from the Navy, it faced roadblocks, barriers. It was like pulling teeth. Then after all of that, a board of inquiry was held. And on all counts, the board voted 3-0 that the ponderance of the evidence did not support any basis of misconduct.
Once again, not the full story. Not the full story. And we will be covering that as well. Is what Mr. Kramer said here true? Yes, it is true. What Senator Kramer said here is true. But it is not the full story. So when you're telling a partial story, when you get that part right, that's great. But why aren't we talking about the full truth behind Adam's trouble and his discipline?
3-0, 7 times. In summary, you screwed the sailor's paperwork up constantly, repeatedly. You made a political decision on his future. You tarred and feathered him out of revenge. A board of inquiry. You
tarred and feathered him out of revenge. Revenge for what? What was it about Adam Schwarze? What did Adam Schwarze do to the Secretary of the Navy, Del Toro, that they had to get revenge for? See, this is an emotional appeal. Like, Adam is a no one in the Navy community, all right? Just like everybody else in the naval community. But this idea that Del Toro was getting revenge on Adam. What?
Unanimously absolved him of all charges.
Once again, not the full story.
Held him past his retirement date until the law actually required you to let him out, and you left a patriot.
Which, by the way, if a sailor or a soldier or an airman or a Marine is facing disciplinary actions, they do not have to be allowed out of the military until those disciplinary actions are culminated. Okay? They don't. They do not. In fact, when it comes to officers on active duty, by the way, you can separate from active duty and still be forced back onto active duty to face further discipline, to be called back in for further discipline. If you do something that the Navy believes is a violation of their policy, even when you're no longer on active duty.
Feeling like the Navy doesn't care about him, or worse, at the end of his service, and you kept his trident. I just, after hearing all of this stuff about how important the people are, Mr. Secretary, I'm perplexed, and I hope it's not too late for some corrective measure to replace this person's integrity and dignity. With that, I'll just let you.
You can't replace something that Adam lost on his own. You just can't. You cannot replace something that Adam lost on his own. Adam lost his own integrity and dignity. Everything that Adam went through was a product of his own doing. And yeah, the system probably screwed up in some places. They probably did lose his paperwork. But to call it a witch hunt, to call it a tarring and feathering, it's just absolutely asinine. Adam did it to himself.
Respond.
Thank you, Senator. I'd be happy to continue to work with you on this situation. However, first, I'd like to make a statement that I personally did not make any statements against you or Lieutenant Adam Schwarze myself. But I will add that we have a responsibility in the Department of Defense that all service members actually act in accordance with the Hatch Act. And Lieutenant Adam Schwarze knew exactly what the rules and requirements of the Hatch Act were. We cannot allow uniformed service personnel, even if they are one day from retirement, to participate in political activities, especially election-related activities. That is a standard that must be met. It has been adhered to since the beginning of the founding of our nation, and we have to actually meet that standard.
So is there a standard where Navy lawyers are allowed to just absolutely trash a guy's reputation create misstatements, factually untrue statements about his career and his claims so that they can somehow prove their point? Is that
Isn't it funny how all of a sudden the law and order Republican types who would normally be fully on board with law enforcement and prosecutors doing whatever it took to win their case, now all of a sudden want to know why lawyers are doing what lawyers do, why prosecutors are doing what prosecutors do? Like, so even if your assertion's true that the naval prosecutors, naval lawyers made up a bunch of stuff, fabricated all this stuff, you've got a problem with it when it's one of you, when it's a buddy. We'll get into Mr. Kramer's connections with Schwarze's campaign and other people in another video. But now all of a sudden you're worried about how the system works when it's a buddy of yours. But boy, throw the book at these other criminals out in the real world. But you leave this naval war hero alone. This naval war hero who jokes about dropping white phosphorus, as AVA said. Thanks for being here, by the way, AVA. He laughs about dropping white phosphorus on innocent women and children in a combat zone. That's fine, but you don't pick on this poor guy. You leave him alone. I'm worried about him.
Is that a standard?
Senator, I'd be happy to look into the case further to see if those statements are accurate. I don't know the details of
I do.
statements that were made by lawyers. I'd be happy to work with you on that.
I know them, including the statements about me that are in your lawyers' records. So
Be happy to collaborate with you in your
I
office
look
on this,
forward to
Senator.
that. I'd rather not have to do it so publicly, but when, after a year and a half of being stonewalled, I'm glad you're here today. Thank you.
Well, let's get that.
Mr. Tolson, you brought up Operation Jailbreak and General.
Get that. Bear with me. We got a lot of stuff to look at. Now, we're going to look at this letter that was given to Lieutenant Adam N. Schwarze of the United States Navy for the Naval Special Warfare Group 8. Okay. So this is just so people are aware. This was issued to Adam on the 20th of December of 2021. From Commander, Naval Special Warfare Group 8 to Lieutenant Adam Schwarze, letter of instruction referencing DOD Department of Defense Directive 1344.10, Milpersman 1611-0100 and Milpersman 1611-020. You signed a request for permission to qualify as a candidate for political office on 28 July 21 with ends. Request to file for candidacy, update on candidacy request, and FEC Form 2 Statement of Candidacy filing. It has come to my attention that you improperly registered yourself as a candidate for political office while on active duty without prior Secretary of the Navy approval as required by reference A. This letter details why such action is contrary to the Department of Defense regulation, the nonpartisan tradition of the United States Armed Forces, and the professional ethos of the Naval Special Warfare. This letter of instruction is issued to you per references B and C to discuss the specific actions immediately required of you. On 29 July 2021, you submitted to your SEAL Delivery Vehicle Team 1 Chain of Command draft a request prepared by your civilian counsel for an exception to the prohibition against service members on active duty running for elected civil office. See enclosure 1. You noted in your email the lawyers did an about face on me and said I need to have permission from the SecNav before even filing for candidacy. Enclosure 2. With your request, you submitted a signed acknowledgement of limitations to Commander, Naval Special Warfare Command. The first line of your signed acknowledgement reads, I understand that for me to remain or to become a nominee or candidate for the civil office of one of Minnesota's congressional seats for the U.S. House of Representatives, While on active duty, I must have the permission of the Secretary of the Navy as required by subparagraph 4.2.2 of Department of Defense Directive 1344.10. You further acknowledged, if I am already on active duty and wish to become a candidate or nominee, I must receive permission first. All right. This is documented, folks. These are documentation that shows this. Nobody's making this up. On July 30th, 2021, my assigned staff judge advocate explicitly highlighted that unless and until you receive the Secretary of Navy's approval, you could not register as a candidate for political office. He also informed you that reference A is a lawful general order and that violating it could result in disciplinary or administrative action. Your retained civilian counsel concurred. See enclosure 2. On 1 September 2021, you were provided a copy of your request with endorsements from the chain of command and informed that it had been routed via the Chief of Naval Operations to the Secretary of the Navy for his review and action, enclosure 3. I want to add here, just because it was endorsed and sent off doesn't mean that the Secretary of the Navy is obligated in any way, shape, or form to grant that. On 22 November 2021, without notifying your chain of command, and while your request remained under review by the Chief of Naval Operations, you filed a signed statement of candidacy with the Federal Election Commission. In your declaration, you designated an organization called Schwarze for Congress as your principal campaign committee for the 2022 election for Minnesota's 3rd District seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. See enclosure 4. By filing as a candidate without approval, you knowingly violated Department of Defense Directive 1344.10, a lawful general order. Your actions are contrary to the Navy's core values, the standard expected of a naval officer, and the professional ethos of naval special warfare. The general prohibition against members on active duty running for political office lies at the heart of our democratic system of government and constitutional separation of powers. As you noted in your signed acknowledgments, exceptions are granted sparingly because running for elected office while on active duty runs counter to the traditional concept that service members on active duty should not engage in partisan political activity. You flagrantly violated regulations put in place to reinforce civilian oversight of the military and maintain nonpartisanship within the ranks. Moreover, by placing your personal political ambitions ahead of your oath to bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution, you've betrayed your commitment as a member of naval special warfare to serve as a quiet professional. As a leader, you must understand that you are held to the highest of standards and expected to set the example. Your actions, despite multiple warnings and your clear awareness of the rules, cause me to question not only your judgment and decision-making, but your fitness as a leader. If you've never been in the military, you do not know how damning this statement is. To correct this deficiency, you must immediately withdraw your candidacy until you are either granted approval in writing by the Secretary of the Navy or you leave active duty. This letter is designed to aid you in correcting your noncompliance with reference A and to document formal command guidance to you. Furthermore, you are advised that you remain in non-compliance with the lawful general order, and that failure to take timely corrective action may result in disciplinary or adverse administrative action. W.H. Allman III. Hey, Skipper, thanks for being here. Thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Much appreciated as always. What we've just did is we just demonstrated, folks. We demonstrated that Adam knew the consequences. Adam knew the regulations. Adam knew the parameters, and he ignored them. He flat out ignored them. And lest you think that this is just, TC picking on poor Adam. Nothing could be further from the truth, frankly. Nothing could. This is not me picking on him. This is me demonstrating that Adam is every bit as guilty of the things. And that, yes, he was exonerated by this tribunal of 3, but like I said, there's more to that story. What they exonerated him of, there's so much more to the story. But now we're going to listen to Adam in his own words. This is Adam showing up on the George Peyroton podcast show. And Adam's going to say some just very interesting things about the Hatch Act right here. And first of all, technically the Hatch Act doesn't apply to the military, even though the military is part of the executive branch. The Hatch Act only applies to the executive branch. And that's why the DOD went in and put things in place through directives about whether or not enlisted or commissioned individuals on active duty could run for office, because the Hatch Act didn't reach all the way into the realm of the military. It covered specifically executive branch employees. So here we go. Maybe.
Like the unlawful orders and things like that happened.
Well, now I'm saying like currently Secretary of the Navy, which it would be a part of Biden's administration, right, is against you. But what is he? What are they exactly?
And this is that assertion that the Biden administration is responsible. They're opposing Adam. And this guy's bought the narrative, hook, line, and sinker. Adam's, fished him. I mean, Adam's crafty. He is good at this. But listen to how he answers all this.
Against? Like, what is he exactly against? He's just against making corrective action, admitting he was wrong, or is he against you specifically? Like, what? Because it's a lot, but the details of like how do they perceive you as running as as an election, as breaking the law, basically, right? Like,
Yeah,
why would the secretary?
You know what? Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna show you Adam running for office, campaigning while on active duty. We're just gonna do it. And we'll do a more in-depth dive into that. We've all heard okay, here we go. Retired Navy lieutenant and disgraced Navy SEAL, who had his trident removed, Adam Schwarze, claimed that he never once campaigned, never once tried at all to ever campaign before he retired. And that the trouble that he got himself in was all political persecution by the Biden administration. And don't get me wrong, the Biden administration was bunk. But so is Adam. Adam's story is bunk. And we have the evidence to prove that he announced his campaign and gave a campaign speech prior to retiring. So which is it, Adam? Did you never, or did you, and you just don't want to admit it because it'll prove the accusations against you were true?
The guy who had declared, he was, so I undeclared the state of Minnesota. Just like everybody's like, hey, when are you going to declare? When do you declare? We'll have to retire first. I can't. So everybody just need to get this retirement squared away before I can declare. It was a very known thing that I was waiting till I retired until I declared. And there's
our last candidate who's vying for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District. I met Adam a little bit ago, and I couldn't be more pleased to introduce him to this crowd. So, let's go.
Thank you, team. My name is Adam Schwarze, and I'm fighting for a stronger America, starting with Congress. It's actually around the entire U.S. There's a lot of veterans like me who are standing up to fight for a stronger America, allowing them to sacrifice. I actually have 7 brothers, also Navy SEALs who are running like my.
Boom, folks. Boom. Right there. Also, Navy SEALs, like me, my brothers, also Navy SEALs. Adam just linked his career to his campaign on March 23rd of 2022. This is before he separated from the Navy.
Myself, so I guess November 8th.
I got an email saying you will be recalled. So on 28 March, I was recalled back to Hawaii 6 days before I was supposed to go on terminal leave.
Adam Schwarze, you are a liar. Blatant, indisputable, you are a liar. Do the right thing for the people of Minnesota. Step down. Stop running. Just stop running. Go get your life right. Get your story straight, at least. Stop lying. Step down. You are unfit for office, at least unfit when it comes to integrity. Otherwise, you'll fit in perfectly. So there again, we just saw like he brought his naval special warfare career. He brought the fact that he was a Navy SEAL into his campaign before he was out of the military. He had received no permission from anyone. And you could sit here all day long and say that it was a political witch hunt. You could sit here and say that it had something to do with they were out to get me. It doesn't matter, Adam, whether or not they were out to get you. You have a obligation to follow lawful orders, and the lawful orders are you will stop campaigning because you're not allowed to campaign without permission. And they're not obligated to give you the permission to campaign. They don't have to give you that permission. I hate to use the terminology, but when you sign up for the military, you are not an autonomous individual anymore. You don't get to make those decisions for yourself anymore. Adam doesn't seem to understand that, or he just doesn't care, or he thinks he's protected. And why would Adam think he was protected? Who did he think might be protecting him? But anyway, we'll cover that some other time.
Of Navy get involved in that?
Great. Yeah, it's a great question. So there's this thing called the Hatch Act, and it's what government officials have to abide by so they're not meddling in elections. And it's what the Secretary of the Navy did, is he meddled in a federal election. He violated the Hatch Act, right? So
yes, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard this correctly. Disgraced, had his tried to strip from him Navy SEAL Adam Schwarze just accused Secretary of the Navy Del Toro of violating the Hatch Act by meddling in a federal election by not allowing Adam to run for office. He calls that a violation of the Hatch Act. Because Adam wanted to run for office, Secretary of Navy was obligated to let him, and since he didn't, it was a violation of the Hatch Act. You can't make this bunk up. This guy is so narcissistic, so self-centered, so self-important that he thinks that because he wanted to run for office, Secretary of the Navy Del Toro was obligated to let him, and since he didn't, that's a violation of the Hatch Act. That is not how it works. It's the Secretary of the Navy's responsibility to make sure that people like you, Adam, Republican or Democrat, independent or libertarian, aren't getting special treatment, aren't being allowed to violate Defense Department directives. If it wasn't so serious, it would be laughable that you were dumb enough to say this to someone.
the ironic thing is that's what they attested I did. They said I broke all these military laws and then federal laws to participate in elections illegally. But what I did was there's actually precedent for. There's other Green Berets. I mean, you can look at, again, Google, a person could look it up. There's been other times where people ran for office even while they were in the military. And the thing that they can't do is they can't run their own political campaign.
That is not how the defense directive reads. And it doesn't matter, Adam, if others have done it. They got the permission. You didn't get permission, Adam. And you started campaigning, as we just demonstrated, before you got through all of this. You're not special, Adam Schwarze. You don't get to just go, well, somebody else got to do it, so I get to do it. You've got the mindset of a 5-year-old. Literally, you have the mindset of a 5-year-old. You think, oh, somebody else got to do it, so I get to do it too, right? The only response to this is, well, if everybody else was told they could go jump off a cliff, what, because that's what my parents would say to me whenever I'd asked to do something that everybody else was doing. Once again, Adam, they went through all the hoops and they got the permission. You didn't get the permission and you started doing it anyway, which is really going to make them not want to give you the permission. Right? I mean, Adam. So we're going to take a look here at, we're going to let you continue to look at Adam. And I'm going to read a little bit from the naval or the DOD directive. DOD directive, Department of Defense directive 1344.10, an active duty service member is strictly prohibited from engaging in the following campaigns. And remember, Adam just said that they're only not allowed to manage their own campaign. What? No campaign management or labor. They cannot participate in partisan political management, campaigns, or conventions. They cannot work behind the scenes for a campaign. No speaking or advocating, which now we've seen that he's done. He spoke and advocated. They cannot speak before a partisan political gathering, nor can they appear on radio, TV, podcasts, or other media programs as an advocate for a partisan party, candidate, or cause. Which, of course, he is a partisan party candidate, speaking on his own behalf, as we saw in the video. No campaign writing or endorsements. They cannot publish, allow, or cause to be published partisan political articles, letters, or endorsements that solicit votes for or against a candidate or cause. No fundraising. They cannot engage in partisan fundraising activities, host fundraisers, or sell tickets for political dinners. They are allowed to donate their own money privately, but they cannot actively solicit or collect money for a campaign. No visible campaigning on base, right? They are allowed to go and be spectators, take part in events, but they have to make sure they're not doing it as in any way, shape, or form linked to the military. They cannot mention their military service. They cannot be in uniform. And first thing out of the gate in the speech that we just watched Adam give, yes, I'm running for Congress. Yes, I'm a Navy SEAL, and my other Navy SEAL brothers are running for Congress too. These are serious allegations. And Adam, probably, excuse the terminology, dodged a bullet. But he didn't get away with it, even though he dodged the bullet, because we have the dirt. And we have him just saying the most asinine things.
And that's exactly what I was doing. I was not running a political campaign. I had other people like my partner who had contracts out to everybody else. They were running the campaign, and I was doing everything that I was doing was within the letter of the law. And they knew that, because not only was I doing that, but I had, like 300 other service members write into the Navy before I was even prosecuted, before I was messed with, and I had other lawyers write in. A federal election is a big deal. So essentially there's a lot of lawyers involved. There's a lot of like federal election code and things like that. There was a lot of people involved in this whole process. It wasn't just like me and the Secretary of the Navy. There was a whole Biden administration, and then I had a whole team of lawyers and a whole, again, like 300, people from the ground in Minneapolis and Minnesota saying, hey, this guy's doing things the right way. You're giving him an unlawful orders, essentially.
So a bunch of people from Minnesota get to tell the Navy what's an unlawful order in this situation. And it's so funny, once again, when when it fits their cause, the law and order, pro-prosecution, pro-law enforcement people will tell you cops don't have a choice. They have to follow every rule, every order, or military people have to follow every order. They don't get to decide on their own what's a lawful order and what is not a lawful order. But when it comes to Adam, they know what an unlawful order is. What? Like, these people, the cognitive dissonance that has to exist in the minds of the morons and the peons that are supporting Adam from the get-go is almost unbearable. It just, there's absolutely no way in the world that I believe that they aren't sitting there scratching their own heads at the things that they say and do, while watching Adam say and do things that are just absolute proof that he is a liar.
To shut down the campaign committee, because that's one of the big things. Is like, I could have a campaign committee, I just couldn't drive it and steer it. And so my partner was steering it, and then they're like, then the Secretary of the Navy would be like, you need to shut this down.
The idea that your partner Desiree Marvin, who you said on my show doesn't want to be involved in politics, you said it on my show, that your partner doesn't like being involved in politics, is now involved in politics, steering your campaign for you without you being involved at all. How stupid, Adam. Do you think, I mean, we know how stupid you think everyone else is. You think that everybody that's not you is dumber than you. You believe when you walk into the room that you are the most important and most intelligent person in the room. You do. You think that you are the most important and most intelligent person in every room you walk into. And we hear it all the time. And you saying stupid things like this. My partner was the one steering my campaign. So you guys weren't talking about us at all, Adam. You weren't telling her what you wanted said, what you didn't want said. What, like, Adam, I gave you credit one time for being far more educated than I am, and that's true. You are far more educated. You know, by the grace of God, you were given opportunities that a lot of people will never have, and you seized them. And good for you. Carpe diem, bro. Carpe diem, my guy. But for someone with as much education as you have, it has gone so far deep into your psyche that you literally think you are smarter than everybody else, and there's no chance in the world anybody will see through how stupid you really are. And the reason I say that is because you think people won't understand this. And you know what, Adam, you're right. Your supporters are the dumbest people I have ever run into, because they could be staring this in the face. They can hear this and go, wow, that's a really good point, Adam. That Desiree Marvin is running your campaign for you. That's really good. That's super. Yeah, that's right. That's freaking accurate, dude. We know that you weren't, there was no pillow talk or nothing. You weren't telling her what to say and what to do. She was doing it all by herself. That was very good. Good. You're a very obedient sailor, Adam. Good job. Yeah, you tell those people. They're so stupid they fall for it.
Well, that's an unlawful order because I'm not even allowed to talk to the committee. So it gets really weird. It gets gross. There's a lot of nuances to it. But essentially, they did what's called non-judicial punishment. And that's something in the military where you give up a lot of rights. One of them is like right to a trial. They can just, execute, like your boss can say, you're screwed up. I'm going to take these amounts of punishments. And they're relatively minor, especially if you're an officer. But then if they want to exact bigger punishments, like if you
I don't know what is up with YouTube today.
get convicted at court-martial, which is kind of what they eventually put me on trial for, that's a felony. You can't have firearms. You can't vote. There's a lot of big deal implications of a court martial. Well, they took me to a board of inquiry at the end state where a board said, because they had to rely on evidence, that's a due process.
Once again, Adam did bring up the non-judicial punishment stuff, and we're going to move on to some other stuff now. But he's not telling you the full story about the non-judicial punishment and why he did it and what happened in that non-judicial punishment sector. So more to come on that, and trust me, you will be enthralled. So on June 3rd, I posted this. I shared a post from a friend of mine, Nathan Wiesenberg, and props to Nathan. I know Nathan supports Adam. I don't have a personal beef with people that do support him. It's politics, and Nathan is playing politics. He's a politician. He's going to play politics. I'm begging Nathan, personally, please just look at what we're presenting here and tell me if you really think that Adam is who he says he is. Because he said here, Adam has been busting his butt for over a year and had his boots on the ground, and he goes on yada, yada, yada. And my comment here is Adam is a properly disgraced former SEAL that was stripped of his trident for legitimate reasons and has been caught lying on numerous occasions or about numerous things repeatedly. And there again, we have demonstrated that Adam Schwarze is a liar and that he's been busted lying. So not immediately, but in a very short period of time, Adam's campaign manager, Xavier, it's Bicot, I think is how he says it, comes on and says he was exonerated of all charges and Navy Secretary Del Toro was fired for violating the Hatch Act. So I said, all charges? And Natalie, my researcher, said, your headline reading shows exactly why Media Mockingbird works. And I'm pretty sure she meant Mockingbird Media works. And then I add, you claim Del Toro was fired for violating the Hatch Act. Can you provide the documents that support this claim? I know the situation thoroughly, and I do know the situation thoroughly. The reality is not... So in January of 2024, and see, this is how far removed this is. January of 2024, then sitting Secretary of the Navy Del Toro went to Great Britain in his official capacity as a member of the Biden administration and said that he was supporting Biden and that the American people wanted Biden elected. BS. We didn't. Biden's own people didn't want him elected, as we now know. And then said, basically that Donald Trump was a nightmare and said these things. I want you to pay attention. Pay attention, folks. Secretary of the Navy Del Toro, Carlos Del Toro, did those things. And you know who turned him in? You want to know who reported Del Toro? Del Toro reported himself because he realized that what he did was wrong and he shouldn't have done it. And so he reported himself to the Office of the Special Counsel, who took his report, determined that there was a Hatch Act violation, and then passed that Hatch Act violation finding on to the Biden administration. He reported himself, folks. He went to the people responsible and said, I did do this thing. I don't like the Democrats, folks. I do not like the hardcore left. I think they're dangerous, just as dangerous as I think MAGA is right now. MAGA is an incredibly dangerous movement, more dangerous than it ever was because of their link being so closely aligned to geopolitical Zionist, that country in the Middle East, and AIPAC and Zionism here in the United States. So they're both incredibly dangerous, but I do not like the progressive left movement within the Democrats. They are hardcore Marxists. I don't like them. But Secretary Del Toro showed more moxie and more ethics than Adam Schwarze did, simply by reporting on himself and telling on himself, admitting that he violated the Hatch Act, knowing that it could result in any number of things. It could have resulted in him being asked to resign from office. It could have resulted in administrative penalties like fines, things like that. Now, we can't find a history of any discipline, but what do we have here? We have campaign manager Xavier Boycott saying that he was fired. And his response to me saying that was to highlight an article or link an article from the Heritage Organization that's a Secretary Del Toro's Hatch Act violation. Okay. So, and what on God's green earth does this have to do with Adam Schwarze? Almost 2 years down the road? Why are you pointing to this to distract from the reality that we have video and other things that show that Adam was actively campaigning while on active duty when he didn't have permission, and he did bring up the fact that he was a Navy SEAL, which, as we know, his commander said was a violation of the ethos of the silent warriors of the Naval Special Warfare community. I don't care if some 3 people on a tribunal exonerated Adam. Once again, we know the full story about what happened in his non-judicial punishment, and we will be releasing that. And I don't care if they try to come out and get ahead of it now, because now, not that anybody's watching this from his campaign, I don't care. At this point, I don't care. But this is a distraction, and it's slandering Del Toro to say that he was fired. But it gets better, folks. It gets better. Xavier, I guarantee you, had I not called him out on this, he would have just I was like, oh crap, I guess I was wrong. He was fired. If I hadn't called him out, he would not have corrected this. But like I said, it gets better. And he goes on. Sorry, correction. He voluntarily stepped down. That is not what happened. This is intentional narrative building, doubling down on the lie, the slander, the libel, whatever you want to call it, the smearing of a man who, for lack of better terminology, served honorably, because you've bought the lie that Secretary Del Toro, as a functionary of the Biden administration, personally had it out for Adam Schwarze. And so you get to say whatever you want about him. And to some degree, because he was a public servant in the public limelight, and this is a matter of public interest, which is what I'm doing here, there is some truth that you can say some things, but to say that he stepped down voluntarily without any context to that at all still makes it sound like one of those things that happens when the president gets wind that you've done something that pissed the president off, and he looks at you as a cabinet member or as a secretary of something or another and says, you know what, we're going to just go ahead and ask you to voluntarily submit your letter of resignation. Tulsi Gabbard, Kristi Noem. I don't let go. When I grab a passing dog by the ear, and if you haven't read my essay about grabbing the passing dog by the ear, you really need to, because this is who I am and this is how I am, and I don't care if anybody else likes it. I don't care if nobody watches this and understands. You said he was fired, Xavier. You stated a factually untrue conclusion. No such thing happened. So many people backing Adam, and even people like you from his official campaign, have said, I'm not stating facts, but here you are clearly lying and saying he was fired. If this is what Team Schwarze considers ethical and factual, that's a red flag. And then he says, yeah, I corrected myself. Look at the comment. And then I go through and I lay out the fact what happened. You see, Secretary of the Navy Del Toro, not only did he report his own Hatch Act violation, he was never disciplined. And we can call that political, right? The Biden administration being what it was. But would you have waited and passed that on to the Trump administration? What do you think the Trump administration would have done to Del Toro? So Secretary of the Navy Del Toro, not only did he not voluntarily step down after that, it had nothing to do with the hat. See, and that's the link that he did make. That's what he was hoping for. He was hoping that he was just going to like keep bombarding me with these factually untrue things that I would just give up and say, you know what, you're probably right. That's not who I am. And you shouldn't be that way either. And Xavier, you should know better. There is a reality in which, you know, even if Adam wins, this could be really bad for your reputation in politics in the state of Minnesota. And I'm okay with that. Del Toro reports himself. The ruling is yes, this is a violation. And on January 15th of 2025, Navy Secretary Del Toro steps down from his position as Secretary of the Navy as part of the administration change from Biden to Trump. And not only was it not at all linked to the Hatch Act, it was done with so much honor that he spoke at the Naval Academy as part of his departure from his position as Secretary of the Navy. And his only defense to this is, hey, before I was responding to this on the fly while coaching my kid's baseball game, then why were you even bothering, Xavier? Why? Because you were hoping that I wouldn't have the moxie to call you out on it. You just threw some stuff out there hoping other people would see it and discredit me. That's what this was. You were hoping that other people would see it and discredit me. Or at least not believe me. And now he says, I have had time to sit down and go over this all now. I was wrong. You were right. I know. And you weren't just wrong. You were deceptive. Del Toro was not fired for violating the Hatch Act. His term was up with his term was up for changing with the presidencies as is tradition. You were right about that. He was never punished for violating the Hatch Act. I'll let you do the research on that one. Okay. I'm okay with admitting if I was wrong when I don't have my facts right. It matters. Adam was exonerated, though, of his 7 charges, 3-0. At this point, no one cares anymore. Xavier, if you can't, where did you even come up with the idea that he was fired? Right? We know that didn't come just from you. You didn't. That's an Adam narrative because Adam lies. He obfuscates. He covers up constantly. And here you are as his campaign manager, forwarding that lie, just taking Adam at face value, not doing enough research. This looks so bad for you, Xavier. But it looks even worse for the campaign. But not once. This is the closest I've seen as a retraction. Like, Xavier, you should have, on your social media, you should have said earlier, I was interacting with this nobody with this tiny, stupid, failing podcast that nobody wants to go on. You could have done that. You could have smeared the crap out of me, and I would have been fine with it. I don't care. Belittle me, whatever you need to do. But Xavier, you could have saved some face and said, I went over to TC's Facebook page and I put up some false information that I didn't bother to actually research and find the truth on. And I was wrong, and I have been given some misinformation. And I should not have advanced it. I should not have advanced that misinformation. But you didn't. You doubled down. And why? Because somebody told you that that there's some sort of corollary between Adam's stuff and what Del Toro did. And they're not even at all closely related. Adam was actively campaigning. We have the video. We showed it. Adam wants you to believe the lie that he wasn't even talking to anybody on any of the committees. But you're living in the same house as your fiance. You're spending time with her. And I'm supposed to believe the campaign didn't come up ever, Adam? Not once. And I'm supposed to believe that speech at a campaign event where you were announcing your candidacy publicly in Minnesota wasn't actually a campaign event, and it wasn't you telling people that you're a Navy SEAL running for office? That's not you then, right? And so now Adam's people are out here. Oh, a Hatch Act violation occurred when Del Toro wouldn't let me run for federal office. That's a Hatch Act. No, it's not. It's the Navy Secretary doing his damn job. You low rent hack. I almost said some things I shouldn't. Oh, hey, Greg of Scotland. Thanks for being here and watching. Thanks for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Once again, I will always take British pound sterling over American dollars. So thank you very much. Now, once again, thanks. Thanks everybody for being here. I know this is a weird time, so we're not getting as much view on this, but I will hope that everybody will share this out in their different platforms. So yeah, this is a bad look. It's a bad look. And it goes to the credibility. It goes to the ethics. It goes to the reliability of a man like Adam Schwarze, that he would put that information out there for his campaign team and others to take and run with, and no one has bothered to correct it. Like I said, Xavier, you could smear me from the left to the right, from the bottom to the top, all the way out to the back 40 and all the way into downtown Atlanta, Georgia. I don't care. Say terrible things about me. Tell everybody that I'm low rent. Tell everybody that I'm a nobody. Just admit you were wrong. Retract the statement and apologize for your campaign officially putting that out there. Adam should apologize for his campaign manager officially putting that out there unchecked. Admit that you guys knew what you were doing. Admit it. Be man enough to admit that stuff. That's all I'm asking. You would earn some credibility with me. I admit when I'm wrong. I do. That's why there's so much work going into this, because I don't want to put something out there that's incorrect. I put out a video, a short from one of my last streams about Adam, where I apologized to Royce White. I put that video out there. And a former friend of the show called me a sackless coward for admitting that Royce White was right and I was wrong. But you know what? I'm okay with that. Because if you're going to call me a sackless coward for admitting I was wrong about something, then I would rather be a sackless coward admitting I was wrong about something and apologizing to the person that I contradicted than to stand on the shoulders of a person in a campaign that is willing to put out factually misleading information, smearing someone just because you can get away with it and nobody's watching. That's terrible. So I'll be that sackless coward. And see, Adam has this thing where he conflates himself with others all the time. Constantly conflating himself with others, constantly berating others, or belittling others by saying that, well, look at this situation. Everybody else, other people got to run for office. Why didn't I get to run for office? Like, you weren't owed a chance to run for office, Adam. Nobody owed you that. Nobody owed you that. You're in the special warfare, naval special warfare community. Pull your head out of your ass. Take your head out of the narcissistic cloud you live in and stop thinking that you're owed something. You're not owed something for being a SEAL. You're not owed something for having served in the military. You're not special. I don't walk around with my hand out, having been with the 82nd Airborne. Fortunately, I never had to be in a position where I had to see combat. I certainly was never in a position where I got to take part in the eradication of thousands of people, including innocent women and children, and then make jokes and laugh about it. I certainly was never in that position, thank the good Lord. But I don't walk around with my hand out saying the world owes me something. I'm owed, like I'm owed something, and that's how Adam acts. Like he was owed something for because he wanted to run for office. He should automatically just been allowed to run for office. And he loves to conflate himself with other people in their positions of importance and act like that's like a really good analogy. And a perfect example of that is what he did with this statement right here. And I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it. See if I can. I'll just, it's a statement from some documents that we have gotten our hands on. And Adam said this: I lost my military career after being unreachable for 5 hours. Lloyd Austin was unreachable for 5 days, while his aides lied about where he was. There's a two-tiered justice system in the military and no accountability in the Biden administration. Well, welcome to the real freaking world, Adam. We all down here, us peons, people out in the Rocks and Cows part of Minnesota, and others across even urban parts of Minnesota, we know all about a two-tier justice system, Adam. And guess what? Lloyd Austin, as a Secretary of Defense, wasn't unaccountable. He wasn't just unreachable. He did things, he took steps to make sure that his position was covered while he was having a medical emergency and was in the hospital for 5 days. Second, they admitted they screwed up. His staff admitted that they screwed up and didn't tell the president about what happened. But he, as a Secretary of Defense, is nowhere near the same caliber of person as you were in the Navy, where you are expected to be reachable whenever they need you. You don't get to compare yourself to the Secretary of the Navy, a civilian who doesn't owe the military the type of allegiance and obedience that you owe the military, Adam. Lloyd Austin is not even in the same camp as you. You just the audacity to say something this boldly and not realize just how stupid and immature you sound. Lloyd Austin is not accountable to anyone other than the president, and his position was covered while things were going on. I don't care, Adam, if you were unaccountable or unreachable for 5 hours or 5 days or 5 weeks. Unreachable is unreachable, and they had every right to come after you. And now I want to know, of all the stories that you've told about why you lost your career, which one's true? Was it COVID that you lost your career over? And we're going to be doing an episode talking about you and how COVID took your career, because COVID didn't take your career. Was it getting arrested? Was it campaigning for office when you weren't allowed to campaign for office? Like, And what, by the way, Adam, you lost your career for being unreachable for 5 hours? Wait a minute. You were trying to get out of your career. You wanted out, Adam. You were trying to get out. When you couldn't get permission to run for office while you were on active duty, you were willing to leave active duty. You were willing to try and get out of active duty to run for office because running for office was more important to you than being in the military with your brothers, who then you accuse of abandoning you for politics. You, Adam, you actively blamed everyone but the one person responsible for what happened to you, and that's yourself. And you conflate things that other people do who have levels of importance and levels of responsibility, magnitudes, orders of magnitude, far more severe than anything you do. This one episode here with what we showed today shows you are not a good leader and you are not fit to make decisions in the Senate. You are a terrible human being. And to smear, once again, don't like Del Toro, don't like Austin. But to smear them and compare what they did to you, who created all of your own problems, these are all problems of your making, Adam Schwarze. You did this to yourself. Stop blaming everyone else for what happened. I was unaccountable for 5 hours. I lost my career. My cover was blown because I got arrested in Hawaii. Yeah, you got arrested in Hawaii. Yeah, you know what? And they dropped those charges, and the arrest was removed from your record. Like, yeah, and you know what, Adam? That was bogus. It was. I admit that was bogus. What they did to you, the Hawaiian police did to you. And by the way, why did you defend the cops? Why did you defend the cops and say, I don't think it was intentional? They were following orders, Adam. They were doing what they were ordered to do. So it wasn't accidental. In your own life, you experienced cops being willing to play politics, which is protect their own careers, to put you and Desiree in lockup over COVID restrictions. And you defended them. How stupid are you? And now you've got people affiliated and associated with and supporting your campaign running around putting out misinformation about Secretary of the Navy Del Toro. And we know that you're the one building that narrative. We know you are. Because you have it in your thick head that somehow Del Toro had a personal vendetta against you, wanted to get revenge on you. Revenge for what? What'd you do? Just steal his wife or something? Like, did you meet his wife on Tinder and exposed her, or what? I don't like. Were you on Bumble and you stumbled over her on Bumble? What is he going after? What's revenge for what, Adam? Tarred and feathered. Adam, you're just not that important. And that's coming from a guy who knows what it means to be unimportant. I am the most unimportant person in the world. But at least I'm willing to admit it. You're just not important enough, Adam Schwarze, disgraced SEAL. Well, I'm getting my trident back. You threw your SEAL team brothers under the bus and blamed them for deserting you when you decided to desert them. You threw Del Toro under the bus. You threw Austin under the bus. You throw everybody under the bus, but the one person who should be held responsible, and that's you. You did this to yourself, Adam. Let it go. It's time to just let it go. There will be more coming out, my friends. Quite a bit more. And I don't care if they start trying to get ahead of it. Because if they start trying to get ahead of it and figuring out where we're going next and what's coming next, it's going to look exactly like what it is. Cover up. We have to get Adam out of this race. He is absolutely dangerous for Minnesota, and I believe he's going to be dangerous for the country if he gets in office. 100% believe it. There's something not right about him. Just something not right about Adam. Be looking for a show sometime tomorrow, folks. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be covering. Might be some more about Adam. Might be something different. Who knows? Maybe I have video of a Minnesota State Patrol trooper flying down the road, caught on my dash cam, just beating the brakes off his car, going as fast as he wants to. No lights, no sirens. Maybe we'll do that instead. Maybe I need a day off from talking about Adam. But I'm still coming after him. Even if no one's paying attention, I'm still going to put the stuff out there because it needs to be out there and people need to use it and need to see it. They need to get it in people's hands. If we can sway just a few people, it's worth it. Adam Schwarze is not who he says he is. So until next time, my friends, fight for your freedom. It is yours. Fight for your liberty. It belongs to you. And sic semper tyrannis.
We are going for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at